something massive is happening in 2025, and it's causing two timelines to emerge. Question is, which one are you on? Are you in this first wave of new consciousness, new earth, birthing a new world? Or are you on another timeline? Stick with me. We're going to dive into signs and symptoms that you're in this first wave. And then we're going to dive into how to support yourself if you are in this first wave of birthing a new world, really. Now, before we dive into that, I want to anchor us into what is this massive thing that's going on in 2025? What are ancient prophecies saying? What are channeled works saying? What is astrology saying? And what is science saying? We're going to anchor into that really quickly. And then I want to give you a deep, powerful way of feeling into if this is what you're going through. Just knowing and being aware of and owning it can completely shift your experience of this transformation, this transmutation, we could say, as some of these channeled works and mystical traditions are pointing to. Then the third section is we'll really talk about many different ways that you can support yourself through this great change, should this be the timeline that you're feeling you're on. All right, so let's anchor us into what is everyone saying about this big, massive change that's happening in 2025. Astrology is pointing to, in 2025 and 2026, all of the planets have shifted signs. In that, one of the big convergences that's pointing to this birth of a new world is Saturn conjunct Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. I won't go super deep into that. I think Pam Gregory just put together one of the most powerful videos that I have ever seen. We'll link it below, and it really talks about the depth of the astrology, along with channeled works, along with some science, along with some ancient prophecies. So I don't want to dive deep into this. I just want to anchor us into this. So astrology is pointing to this. We could also say Pluto in Aquarius is anchoring this in, Uranus moving into Gemini. Uranus is conjunct Sedna. This is something that you might not find out in the astrology. This is really pointing to birth of a new human. Now that's astrology. If we were to go to prophecies, we can look at the end of Kali Yuga lining up this year, 2025, in March. That's a 12,000 year cycle. And it ended in March 2025. That was a cycle of darkness. So this points to massive leaps in human consciousness. That's the same thing that the astrology was pointing to. Massive evolutionary leaps, like the quickening. It's a quickening of evolutionary leaps in consciousness evolving very, very quickly. Again, this is kind of pointing to those in the first wave. So some of this might already be stirring in you, and trust that this is more of a conversation to help you to understand where you are at and to help you anchor into what it is that is happening to you, through you, around you, and also how can you really support that process. A couple of other things is the mystical teachings of Richard Rudd. I love this, his Gene Keys work. I'm going to actually have him on the podcast. We're going to have a conversation about this. Gene Keys, there are genes, Gene Key 55 switching on in us. This is him talking about this transmutation from the water nymph into the dragonfly, and it's literally the DNA within ourselves is mutating into a different, more evolved state over the next 2 years between 2025 and 2027. There's other works around that, a lot of channeled works. I know Lee Harris came out with The Future Human, which was a channeled work through the Z's. We're hoping to have him on the podcast as an interviewee also. We'll see. Haven't heard back from him yet, but his book really points to this birth of the new human. What is this 2025 to 2027 bringing in? There's many other things I can go into, but that's not the point. Again, if you want to dive deeper into this, I strongly recommend Pam Gregory's video. Again, we're going to throw that in the bottom. It goes into these more like facts and figures and how all of this is converging. I think she calls one of the words she used in the title is convergence of all of these traditions, science, astrology, ancient prophecies, weaving together to really point to and to try to give us more understanding and things to anchor into around this change, this massive change. All right, let's dive into these two timelines that are emerging. And which one are you on? So I'm going to frame this. There's many ways to frame this, but I'm going to frame this as the two timelines. Timeline 1 is you're in the first wave. Timeline 2 is you're on a different wave. That's all I'm gonna speak to around that. I don't want to get into the details of like the next wave and when's the next wave and when's the next wave, or how, you know, there's a splitting off that's happening. There's a lot of information out there around that stuff, but this to me is giving you something to sink your teeth into to know if you're in this first wave. So signs and symptoms that you're in this first wave. This would be looking at 2025. So looking whenever this may have started for you, it might be starting for you now. It may have started for you a month ago. It may have started for you in March when people were saying around that equinox time was a really potent, tumultuous kind of springboard moment into this first wave. It doesn't matter. How do you know if you're in this first wave? One of the signs that you'll know you're in this first wave is you're really experiencing on a deep inner level the crumbling of your paradigms, the crumbling of your reality, the crumbling of your foundations. You're not just externally it being talked about or you're seeing it outside of self, you're very much experiencing a crumbling, a dissolving. A cocoon crawled into the caterpillar crawled into the cocoon. A cocoon crawled into the caterpillar. Wow, now we're really experiencing a new reality. A caterpillar crawling into the cocoon, and you're really experiencing this dissolving state. You're experiencing this liminal state. That would be kind of sign number 1. I'm going to bounce off of that and go a little bit deeper into sign number 2. This stage, this liminal stage, this dissolving, this real crumbling of inner foundations and paradigms and belief systems can feel like, sign number 2, dark night of the soul. Now, a dark night of the soul can feel like many different things, but dark night of the soul is a time of death almost. It is a time of solitude sometimes. It is a time of darkness. It's called dark night of the soul. It's dark. There is a lot of void feeling. There is a lot of darkness. This can feel like, I'll weave into number 3, this can feel like despair. It can feel like depression in this dark phase, this liminal phase, this void space. So that's another sign or symptom, is almost depression or despair. Now, just because this sign or symptom is here doesn't mean necessarily that this is what this is. You have to really come from that wise place within self and be very, very discerning around this for yourself. Let's keep going with some of these signs and symptoms. So if we move out of this, we'll call 1 dissolving, we'll call 2 dark night of the soul, we'll call 3 despair or depression. We'll call number 4, number 4, I'm going to shift a little bit and kind of look at things from a different angle, is you're connecting into cosmic consciousness, or you're becoming aware of you're a cosmic being. You're not just a human. You're actually part of something greater. You might be in this cosmic consciousness feel like, wow, I am a galactic citizen. I am part of something cosmically, not just being part of something earthly. It's bigger. It's like this bigger understanding or bigger lived experience. In this, you might be connecting to cosmic beings more. Cosmic beings, galactic citizens, different groups of consciousness that would be considered outside of the earth plane. This could be Arcturian, this could be Pleiadian, this on and on and on and on and on the list goes. So that's another sign or symptom. Now, I'll share this a little bit and we'll weave a little more into this for supports, but many people who are in this first wave are reporting that these cosmic beings are very supportive. Part of the reason this expanding into galactic consciousness and this connection to more cosmic beings or more angelic beings, some people are reporting it's angelic beings that are very supportive to this process, but that as a support, and again, we'll talk more about that when we get into supports. So let's keep going with this. We'll weave off of this galactic consciousness as point number 4, and we'll weave into intuition exploding, intuition sharpening, intuition opening. Right? So there's an intuitive sensing. You're seeing what's going to unfold. You're seeing what's going to happen, or you're starting to live more intuitively. Some of us are not necessarily seers. So I don't want us to get caught in that trap of like, well, I'm not seeing, but you're intuiting more. And your intuitions are sharper. They're more spot on. You're more intuitive about what's happening for a person. You're more intuitive about how you make decisions. It's coming from a more intuitive place. Like, I know what I know, but I don't know how I know it. I'm actually living from far beyond just my 5 senses. There's multi-dimensional sensory system switching on. I'm going to say that as the next sign or symptom. Multisensory senses and capacities are switching on in self, right? So I just had a conversation with Rick Levine, and we were talking about some kind of scientific study that was done, and it's like there are not 5 senses. There are actually like 36 senses that have actually been measured by science. But we're starting to become more and more conscious of these other sensory systems within ourselves. It might not be that our mind is able to cognize them, but we're living them or we're being moved by them in certain ways. Okay, another sign or symptom, moving on from this intuition sharpening, is this sensitivity's heightening. I think this is very linked to intuitive and multisensory system switching on, is we have heightened sensitivity. So if we're operating from 36 different senses, we're suddenly taking in a lot more input, a lot more information. So fake light might be something that we've suddenly gotten a sensitivity to. Sounds are suddenly we're more sensitive to. Other people's emotional states we're more sensitive to. Ley lines gridded in the earth we're suddenly more sensitive to. Solar flares we're more sensitive to. Electromagnetic fields we're more sensitive to. We're more sensitive to the amount of Wi-Fi that's in an environment, the amount of underground cables, electricity that's in an environment. We're becoming much more sensitive to everything. That's another sign or symptom. So weaving off of that, we'll go into body shifting. So of course, if we're in this big transmutation, this big transformation, in this kind of first wave of birthing ourselves anew, we'll just say we're birthing ourselves anew, we're birthing our world anew. Our bodies can be shifting. in extraordinary ways. Our sleep patterns are different. Our eating patterns are different. Our movement patterns, our energy levels are different. Now, as some of us are going through this, we're needing large amounts of rest time. We're needing large amounts of almost spaciousness, purification kind of time. But the body can be changing and transforming. The mind also can be changing and transforming. The mind, not separate to the body, I'm including that with the body, can be shifting and changing in very deep and profound and often confusing ways of, is there something wrong with me? Am I having early Alzheimer's? Am I in perimenopause? Am I, no, you can list a whole list of different things that we might be feeling. So this can be happening for a lot of us. Now I'm going to shift into this again off this first wave of birthing ourselves anew this year in 2025, birthing ourselves anew. It can also be that our lives are realigning in really profound ways. So our bodies are shifting, but our lives, our external lives might be realigning to almost mirror and match what's happening on the inside. So as within, so without, as above, so below. If this is happening inside, there may be external reflections that are happening. I was just on a call with some of the beautiful souls coming on the Creation Mystery School retreat in Australia, and so many were speaking to, I have let go of this in my life. I have moved house. I have changed relationship status. I have really shed this and let go, like really big, monumental life shifts. And so for some of us, this life realignment can be one of the really strong, loud pieces that's going on. Let's go a little bit deeper into this shift, and a couple more signs and symptoms is, for some of us, it's like we've unplugged from the old system. It's like we've maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously, we suddenly feel like we don't have our finger on the pulse in a way that we used to. Like we're not necessarily like tracking the matrix. It's almost like, this one's so tough to feel into words for it, but it's like we've really unplugged from old systems, and it could look like you've unplugged from the news, you've unplugged from social media, you've unplugged from like listening to kind of where like the murk, lower vibration levels are of the world. And you can even like read the news or listen to it, but it's like you're not plugging into it in a way. This is such a weird one, but there's an unplugging for some of us. This will be your sign or a symptom. It's just happening. You're just not as steeped in it. It's like you're not drinking the Kool-Aid of it. You're just like, yeah, but you're not like living it. It's not like pumping through your blood anymore or your system anymore in a way. Tough one to explain, but you might understand what I'm saying, hopefully. So this unplugging from this old system, old matrix, and then let me feel for another one. There was another one kind of popping up in my mind, but I think I have to let that one go. There's, for some of us, a real call to simplicity. This is another sign or symptom, like a real call to simplifying, a real call to, for some of us, this could feel like nature. Like I have moved off grid and I live alone with my dog in just like thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of forest. And it's off grid. So it's just this spaciousness that was needed. This like purifying, like, so that I have this space, or you might be feeling this as a sign or symptom, like purging, purifying. And what are you kind of called to create that space for yourself? This simplifying of things is something that some of us are really called to. Weaving off of that, this deeper plugging into nature's rhythm, like nature's rhythm as just an almost deep primal knowing of, if I plug into nature's rhythm, it's going to be nourishing for me. It's going to be supportive of this system, of this transmutation that's happening. I really like this word for what's going on, transmutation that's happening. Some of us, I want to talk about this too, because it kind of weaves back into dark night of the soul, but some of us feel like we're maybe doing some really deep, in this purification or purging, we're doing some really deep, we could say shadow work, or really deep releasing of ancestral patterns, really deep releasing in our bones, in our tailbone, in our spines, in our cellular memory, like deep releasing. On the flip side of the coin, some of us are really feeling this like high frequency remembering. So it's almost this happening simultaneously for some of us, is this deep releasing of like older, denser ways of being, simultaneously this high remembering. And it's almost like this remembering of cosmic consciousness. Like, yes, this too lives in your DNA. Yes, this too lives in your DNA. Yes, this too lives in your cellular memory. And yes, this too is switching on. And yes, all of these like high voltage solar flares are helping to switch this on. And this comet that's coming in at the end of October into November, that's going to bring in new consciousness, and that's going to help to switch this on, right? And all these cosmic beings that are really here supporting are helping to switch all of this on. The astrology lining up to where it's exactly lining up, these yods and these fated moments and 0 points of Aries, it's helping to switch all of this on, and it's switching on, and it feels like it's new, but it feels like it's ancient. It feels like it's a remembering, but it also feels like a totally new frequency while being a human on this earth, in this body at this moment. Just that for those of us feeling like we're in this first wave. I could go on and on, but I feel like I want to shift into some supports for this now. I do want to say, just really honoring where you're at, when this started for you, where it's at for you, how challenging it's been, how elated, exciting, ecstatic it's been for you. Really want to honor the things you've had to let go of, the things that have changed in your inner world and in your outer world, just like wrapping us in love. I think sometimes just giving ourselves this moment to go, wow, this is what's going on. This is what I'm in. This is what I'm experiencing. And I'm not alone in this, can be so powerful. And so lean into this conversation, watch it repeatedly, share it with those you think might be going through something like this, as just like nourishment, like new human soul food that we need, or nourishment, if it feels like that for you. Like, let yourself almost be like wrapped by a big blanket of compassion and love and acknowledgement. I think just the acknowledgement piece of like being witnessed in it, because not everyone is in this. And I feel, and what I'm seeing in those close to me, is those of us who are in this first wave, and this first wave I really see is happening in 2025. There's a lot of prophecy, and there's a lot of channeled works, and astrologically, there's also a lot of things pointing to this first wave being completed around the winter solstice, the December solstice. For some, it'll be the summer solstice, but that December solstice around December 21st being completed around that. Now, of course, it could happen November. Of course, it could happen January or February, right? There's a whole second wave that's happening, and just had a conversation with Rick Levine, and that kind of peaks in July of 2026. So like we don't have to get like super caught up with dates and go, I'm not in the first wave if I don't feel like I'm going to complete it by December 21st. It is not at all like that, right? This is something that is far beyond our calendar, right? And us wanting to put it in a linear timeline of things. So just this moment before we get into supports of like owning it, I think that's one of the greatest supports. This is how we'll start off with supports. It's just one saying, this touched me. Those signs, those symptoms, this conversation is touching me. Yes, I am part of this. Don't let your little self get in the way. Don't let that ego self get in the way. Don't let, playing small get in the way, or can't possibly be me, or don't let that get in the way. There's a deeper knowing. There's a deeper knowing. Trust that deeper knowing, that wiser part of self that just knows. It knows, and you will know. You will know. There will be a wise part of you. Maybe it's your belly. Maybe it's your heart. Maybe you just feel this like spark, or you've had chills, or you've been crying. Trust the wisdom. Trust the wisdom of self, And so step number one of support is just, I am in it. I'm in it. I'm in it, and I don't got to cling to dates, and I don't got to cling to being special about this first wave. I'm in it. I'm owning it. I'm humbly, I think for me, that's been really helpful. I'm humbly owning it, but I am owning it as this is what's happening for me. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm going through. Number two, I'm not alone. This can be really powerful for some of us. Just this conversation. You're not alone. Being with others who are maybe going through it can be incredibly supportive. Like tapping into different conversations that might be happening on YouTube. Like I referred to Pam Gregory's beautiful conversation. That can be something powerful. I have a lot of very dear friends that are going through this. I am in a lot of circles that are holding this, communities that are holding this. If you don't have a community, maybe starting to tap into and feel for a community that's holding this, birthing a new consciousness, that's birthing yourself anew, that's holding that frequency of it. And it's almost like creating this container of consciousness that can handle it. I don't know if handle it's the best way. That can, it's like having the greatest midwife energy space. It's like birthing yourself anew, but you're birthing yourself anew in this beautiful environment of just love and nourishment and complete understanding of others who are walking that path with you. Bones membership, Rewilding membership is one of those spaces. It's very open to anyone who feels that they're walking this path, this first wave, this birthing themselves anew. That's something you can very easily join. If you feel like being with others in this kind of an environment and consciousness, protected, it's almost like protected spaces, protected bubbles can really support the birthing. The birthing, that's a fragile process. The birthing self anew, birthing your world anew, it is a fragile process. And so sometimes that environment can be very, very important. So now beyond just plugging into other people or other works or other communities that are supporting that, it's also taking environment to another level and going, what is the environment that I can create for myself that supports this? And owning that, making really wise, discerning choices around the environment you need. Do you need to maybe work less? Do you need to sleep more? Do you need to create a sacred space in your home, even if that's like a closet or something? Like, this is just my environment that is supportive to the process I'm going through. Environment can be really powerful in supporting self. Can you get out in nature if that calls to you more? What is the environment that you're choosing? And we really got to own this, right? Because it's like this like empowered piece of owning that this is the process we're going through, and then owning the ways that we can protect and provide for ourselves through this. So environment can be really powerful. Let me bring my other crazy list over here. I've got this like massive list of all kinds of things, and we'll just see what else wants to keep coming through. Let me feel for a minute. Surrendering, letting go. The humble camel makes it through the eye of the needle. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Seems silly, but this was where I brought in that word humble earlier, is this like humble surrender. Let me turn it over to something greater. Let me turn it over, in this dissolving and in this letting go. I've done these like silly little YouTube shorts on like, I don't got this. I don't got this. Like, this is a lot of change. This is a lot of external change. This is a lot of internal change. Like, I don't got this. But to me, it's like calling in the big guns. It's praying. It's praying for grace. It's calling in the big guns. It's calling in the benevolent beings that are here to support us, and remembering that. And when we get in moments of overwhelm or I don't got this, there are so many supportive energies that are here to help herald this in. And if we can just remember to lean into them, to call them in, to surrender into something greater. And sometimes it takes a little humility, like, I don't got this. Like, Sabrina doesn't have this. Like, I really need the guides and the guardians that are here supporting me birthing myself anew. I need a midwife. I need some midwives, That's really what's happening. Like, we are birthing ourselves anew. We are birthing a new world. We are birthing a new consciousness. And we need some midwives. We need a really good, safe environment. We need some really powerful midwives. Sometimes those midwives come in the form of humans. Sometimes they come in the form of conscious beings that are not taking a physical form that look like a human. Sometimes it's a tree. Sometimes it's an animal, right? So just really maybe opening up to supports that are really here for birthing self anew. I'm going to weave off of that and go being really honest with self, like speaking to myself here too, being really honest with myself around, outside of being in the right environments, being with people who are walking this path also to help to create, it's almost like an intensified force field, like a shamanic field of consciousness that really supports self. So outside of community spaces, outside of higher frequency spaces, outside of plugging into things, like how much am I practicing? How much and what am I practicing? And to be really honest with myself, am I really attuning to practices that support the new, or am I still going to a really old school, old paradigm, religious, conditioned, structured thing that is not necessarily holding what I'm walking into? I've been working with a lot of new sacred technologies. For myself, my personal practices, new sacred technologies. The birthing myself anew, really working in these higher frequencies, these higher spiritual practices, these higher tools, that can hold the state of consciousness and invoke the state of consciousness required in myself to birth myself anew, to birth that new consciousness, to hold the new human, the new earth that's wanting to come in. And so what are these practices you're attuning to? What are these spiritual traditions you're attuning to, right? And just to be really, really honest, that it's probably not for all of us. You have to feel for that wise self within what's true for you. It's probably going to look a little different. Like I brought through this new body of work this year while really attuning to this birthing self anew, this birthing new consciousness, this really being in this first wave 2025, bringing in that new human consciousness. I brought through a new body of work and it was completely different. It was completely different than anything I've ever done before. Completely different. It was in this energy. It's actually called the new human activation. Like that's how like riding this wave it was for me. And I did it really because I needed it. Like I did it because I needed it, really. I ended up sharing it with thousands of people who they, in some form or fashion, resonated with it, and it served them also. But really being honest with self, have you shifted or felt into or looked around or felt for or trusted yourself in what are these new technologies? What are the new practices, that really serve this and really support this? Depends on when you're watching this, but the new human activation, it's open as this video comes out. I don't know how long that will be open for, but I split it into 3 different ways of feeling into this birthing self anew, and I really went for the birthing part, the working with creation energy to birth self anew, to birth a new consciousness. And so we worked with new feminine, just a full activation in new feminine, and then we worked with new masculine and a full activation in new masculine, and we took these 2 seemingly separate sacred energies, and then we wove them together, and then it was birthing a new union. And what is this birthing a new union? And obviously the new union leads to a third force, or the baby, the birthing of a new, like almost consciousness, like birthing of a new third energy. And that's what, for me, that's what I've been called to work in, is this, and I'll share this as a support too, is for me, it's been really important to hold that union in myself. That's part of what has supported me. And I know a lot of those I'm close to, and a lot of those in some of the circles that I'm holding and people I'm working with, is holding like this new level of feminine in ourselves and this new level of masculine, and holding this divine embodied union in ourselves. And this is helping to anchor in. It's holding these seemingly opposing opposites together. It's being able to have both of them in a union within our bodies, and that's really supporting this first wave, this birthing self anew. So maybe feeling that for yourself around balance. Maybe there's some balance work that you're feeling called to do around masculine and feminine, like some balance, or I can go back to that last support of what are your practices? What are your new practices that you're tapping into, or spiritual supports, I suppose, that you're tapping into. And it can be that some of the old practices are just evolving. Maybe breath work is like your go-to, but your breath work is taking on a new vibration. Your breath work is taking on a new frequency. Your breath work, and so to allow, to create space for that, to really allow for that. Okay. The next piece I want to talk about that I'm really feeling in that video that Pam Gregory just did, she spoke to this piece too, is the embodiment. It's seemingly that embodiment is required for this birthing self anew, this bringing in this new consciousness. It's an embodied piece. And so it's really, let me just feel where I want to weave from this. I want to go really deep into the depths, and I want to go, some of us The support for us will be working in places like ancient primordial feminine energy, like the deepest depths of embodied work that we can possibly be doing. And that's just the first one that pops to mind, is deep depths of ancient, deep, sacred feminine. The feminine is the embodied divinity. Feminine is soul in a body. Feminine is the depths. It is the very ground of being. It is the roots of the roots of the roots of the roots. It is connected into the deep mycelial roots that connect into absolutely everything everywhere. And this can be extremely supportive for us who are doing this work. We actually do that in that new feminine activation. So if you're feeling like, whoa, this embodiment piece is something that I'm missing, that's something that you can go dive into also. If for some reason that new human activation, if you're watching this maybe a little bit later and the new human activation is not available to dive into, there's a 3-part workshop series I did a little while ago called Birthing a New World. Now, I did this back in 2020. But it holds the depths of embodiment, and it really opens us up to being able to give birth to ourselves anew, to give birth to a new consciousness. You will literally, and it's free. So this 3-part series, it's totally free. And you'll find details for that below, as well as the new human activation if you're more feeling to weave in the masculine, right, in this, and the union piece. I would go to that. That was created this year, like very recently, a few months ago. It was created in 2025 when this first portal opened. Now, the other one is deeper feminine work. You will tap into like ancient primordial feminine. You will tap into ground of being. Like, it gets you into this deeper place of embodiment. So this could be something that's really supportive to this process. And of course, there's many other ways to work with this. You may have your own ways to work with this. Let me see if I can weave just a few more things in here. I'm going to end on this one. I want to weave one more into this. I could go on and on and on about this. This last one that I want to weave into, this was gifted to me when I felt like I first started moving into this wave back in March. I really followed this like weird timeline of the March equinox of like, wow, I don't know what's happening. And this was gifted to me by a very wise, I would consider her to be an elder in my life. And it's a practice that has served me through this whole process. And she was actually the first person who talked to me about this first wave, that talked to me about, she's like, there is a wave, a collective consciousness evolution that is really rapidly awakening this year. And that's what's going on. And it's the first person that talked to me about it. And this, I have followed this piece. I have followed this entire way through from March until now. I'm creating this at the very end of August. And it was this piece around, there's a great sorting that's happening in your life. That's happening in your body. It's happening in your life. It's happening in every single area, everywhere, within and without. A great sorting that's going on. And to support yourself in this great sorting. So the great sorting is, here's what stays, here's what goes. Here's what stays but needs to be tweaked a little bit. And this has been every single area of my life, every relationship in my life, every working thing that I do in rewilding, everything where I live, everything, my dog, my relationship to land, to earth, to cosmic beings, everything has been this great sorting. And the guiding light has been, does this feel like joy, like lightness, like higher frequency? Does this feel like joy, higher frequency, lighter? Does this? And if it does, I follow that. Does this feel heavy, denser, older? And then being with that and asking, is there a change that it can make to move into this joy, higher frequency? Or is it something that is to be released from my life? So it's something that isn't coming with me in this birthing myself and birthing my world anew. Really powerful. There's another episode that I did that could support you in this. And I did this at the beginning of the year, and it was called The Great Shedding of 2025. And there's an activation in there around the ancient primordial feminine. And it was also just in reference to, I could feel what was coming in 2025, and I was leaning into this being the year of the snake, and this being this year of great transmutation, of you will be shedding your skin continually and continually and continually, and almost birthing yourself anew continually and birthing yourself anew continually. This will be a massive year of death, rebirth, 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 for almost this grand rebirth of self, this grand rebirth. And so we'll put that episode links. It's something that you could just dive into right after this if you want to kind of continue on this thread. You're also incredibly welcome to join us in community, where I'm holding these energies for the rest of the year, the rest of 2025, and of course into 2026 around this birthing self anew. So that's community, that's workshops every month. And then, of course, there's the new human activation, which I mentioned. And then finally, there's that free resource. Also, go do that. Go do that 3-part Birthing a New World series. It's a very deep journey. It'll be deeper than watching a podcast episode, deeper than having a conversation. It's actually an embodiment journey. It's a psychosomatic journey. It's going to touch you on deep cellular places that just a conversation isn't going to go to. I am sending you so much love. I want to hear how you are. Maybe leave a comment below. I'm always in these comments. My team is also always in these comments. Tell me how this felt for you. Are you in this first wave? Are you feeling it? What made you cry? What gave you chills? Like, what was your profound moment? Can we witness something for you? You know, like, I got this whole beautiful, amazing team who are also walking through this. Everyone on my team is walking through this. There isn't one that is not walking in this first wave. And so if there's something we can witness for you in the comments below, leave a comment. Be with us here. Subscribe. Be with us, right? Subscribe to Rewilding Weekly. I send out an email every Sunday with lots of weekly practices and how to follow the energetics of the week. And of course, I'm walking this first wave and this new human wave. And so I am super here to support this process. And so definitely sign up for Rewilding Weekly. Then you won't miss an episode that comes out, and you won't miss that big juicy report that I send out every Sunday. Okay, just massive love to you. Massive. We got this, right? We got this. We're doing this. We got this. We're all just walking each other home. We got this. You got this. Massive love to you. I will see you when I see you, where I see you, and how I see you.